Greeting everyone. So this is the video to give you the guideline for the debate activity that we plan to do in next week or in the next 2 weeks for different classes. So I'm going to give you a very quick and a short idea about the rules and procedure and what I expect everyone to get from this activity. So the first step that we want to know is about the format, the style that we're going to do in this debate. So I'm going to tell you this debate we're going to divide into 3 groups. As you can see in these pictures that the whole class divide into group A, group B and group 3. Under each group we will have the teams from the proposition, the teams of the opposition, the judges and the coordinator. For the class that lack of member, we might have only the one who take the proposition, the opposition, and a judge. So in each side, usually we have 3 proposition speakers. We have another 3 to talk in the oppositions, and we might also need to have another 3 more judges. And the remaining student will be take part or take role as the coordinator. So before we come in and discuss each of the role, I would like to explain the procedure and the process of the debate. So the flow of the debate will be divided into 2 rounds. The first round is the round that everyone will have 7 minutes to speak, and it will move in this alternating order, starting from the first speakers from the proposition side, and then move on to the first speaker from the opposition, and after that we have the second speaker from the proposition, and finally is the second speaker from the opposition side. The goal of this round is to let both sides set the arguments, to providing their ideas, to providing why they need to convince the judge on the arguments that supported their own side or their own topic. And that is why you have around 7 minutes. And for the detail, I'll be going to explain at the bottom, so don't worry. But you will have a total of 7 minutes each to present your arguments and to rebut the arguments of others within that time provided. But after that, we have the second round, which is provided to the third speaker. They will take the role of making a short reply speech. A reply speech is just only for 4 minutes. So what we do in this final round or in this reply speech is to give your final statement, is to be able to convince the judge based on what you understand from all of the discussion that have been made by your side and from your opponent's side, and trying to give the convincing idea that most of the strength come from your side and the weakness are from the other. Capture their flaw, present it, highlight the important flaw that the other group haven't yet been solved. Highlight your strength, hide your weaknesses, and this is the goal to make the final persuasions to the judge about what you can offer. And that's why the third person also play a very important role in order to turn around the table in case if you feel like you were defeated by the other team. But this round or this final round could be the times that you can reverse the circumstances. And to give the clear idea, this is not going to work like the actual debate. We're not going to put into the actual competition. This is the process of learning. So that's why I'm not going to put pressures on every team. They require to find a very quick thinking on listening to other arguments and then draw out the rebuttal or any kind of refute toward the arguments from the other team. That's why I give around 3 minutes of the break time, of the interval, to discuss and to generate the ideas on how you can attack the other arguments, how to find their flaw and weaknesses. So in each round, like I used to mention, you're required to talk by the first proposition. The goal of the proposition is to set the context, the background of the issues. And after setting the context of the discussion, they should start to give the list of their arguments. If they have 4 or 3 arguments in their side, you need to present all of them, like what you do inside your outline. And after that, you will pick 1 or 2 among those and started to give a detailed explanation about your arguments. And after that, at the end, maybe you can try to reinsert your stamp to prove that the judge should be considered that your argument is the most convincing one. After that, we move on to the first speaker of the opposition side. You can start to decide to agree or disagree with the context that have been set by the first proposition. Whether you feel like the context that they propose tend to be favored to their side, you can just address and point out that you need to change the context. But since this is not really the actual competition, and that's why I would suggest that each group, before you start to debate, maybe you can discuss with one another on the ground, on the issues that you both agree to discuss on. And after that, for the first speaker of the opposition, you will start to rebut the proposition argument. Think of what they've been mentioned. What is their weaknesses? What are the problems that you can raise, that can point out? And after you rebut the other first proposition arguments, you will start to give your own framework, your own outline of the whole arguments. And after that, you do the same thing by introducing 1 or 2 arguments from your side and try to insert your own stamp. We move on to the second proposition speaker, which also still have 7 minutes, and you're going to use the flow of the same idea by rebut the arguments that proposed or raised by the first opposition speaker, and then started to refute any rebuttal that they have been made by the first speaker of the opposition as well. When the first speaker at this point, when they rebut to the proposition side, if you can find the flaw of their rebuttal, you can also raise up that their rebuttal, it doesn't make sense or is weak in comparison to what have been raised by your team. And after that, you will start to introduce the final of your arguments. The remaining argument that you have should be presented in here. And at the end of the day, you will reinsert your proposition stamp and any cases that you can provide further in order to convince the judge that your team could be the one who win inside the debate. And move on to the second speaker, should have the same role as the second proposition speaker. So everything is moved the same way, is that you will start to rebut whatever the argument had been raised by this second speaker, and then you can start to rebut toward the first opposition argument here in this part. You can rebut to the rebuttal as well. So this is the idea that it helps to give even more of the discussion of what you can pick and find the flaw in each idea. And at the same time, you can after that you're going to introduce your final arguments that you have within your group and reassert whatever the position that you try to convince others, and include any cases that you think will help to make you win the debate. And the last part, we will move the same way, starting from the proposition side, make the first reply speech, and then we move on to the opposition, that they're also going to make another reply speech. So the goal of the reply speech is to give, I can use the mention, is to point out or highlight the strength of your group and the weakness of the other, and to hide whatever your weaknesses. And this is how you have only 4 minutes, but this is the important moment for each group in order to make their final persuasion in order to win inside the debate. So along the way in the process, every group will have a certain a certain actions that they can make, And one of those is what we call here the point of information. So for instance, if the person who are speaking right now is supposed to be the first oppositions, the first speaker from the opposition side, they make their rebuttal, they started to give their arguments, but at any point in their speech, if any side from the proposition they feel like it doesn't make sense and they want to interrupt and want to ask the question immediately, you can do that by just shouting the word point of information. So the person who are the one who speak right now, they can decide it. Okay, the person who is the speaker, you can decide to choose to accept or not accept the point of information. So if you accept it, you just show any sign that you allow the person who asks you to ask the question. But if you don't want them, you can just ignore and do nothing. That means that you will not accept any kind of the question from the other team. This is not really the things that everyone required to do, but if you be able or you confident enough that you have a remaining time to finish your speech and also answer the other question, then you can start to accept their question. If not, then it's okay for you to ignore it and continue your discussion. So this is what the whole process of the debate. And this is the role that those who take their position in the side of any kind of the debater as the proposition or the opposition, you need to know and you need to understand. So before we discuss about the motion, let me start to give a quick idea about the role of the judge. Being a judge is not an easy task. Don't think that because you are the judge, that's why you don't have to concern much about finding the arguments, conducting a research on the case that you want to do. And you can just simply go there and listen to them and just score them and just tell which one is a winner. Remember in here, the judge role is not limited to just only giving the mark to each side or just declaring which one is the winner. You have to demonstrate that your judgment is supposed to be unbiased, and you can provide with a very good reason, and you can point out about why you decide to let this group win or not. Based on what? Based on the sound arguments that each group have made or did not make. What you can see the flaw in their debate, whether the debate what they have been discussing, they keep on the right track, or you believe that they did not really discuss on the right thing. And you can raise all of this, you can comment, you provide what you see in the debate. And that is why when you come to be the judge on that day, you will have at least a certain amount of background and knowledge about the matters. If you don't, then you will find it hard to catch up and to follow all of the debate, and you might not fully understand about what they have been raised or discussed. So this is why I show you that the whole class that is going to divide into 3 groups in order to make sure everyone will somehow deliver or do something. You cannot be just an audience and sit during that day, but everyone will have to work in order to get it. And finally, we have another role. For some class, maybe you will not be able to do it. For some class, since there's a shortage of the student, so we require those who are acting as a judge. We also have to take a role of the coordinators. The coordinators inside the debate are not going to be very difficult, since you can see that each of the debate we have the exact time that allow for each group, and the exact pausing time, the interval time for break within 3 minutes. So you will help to monitor and to inform the members and the one who are working inside inside this debate to understand how many time they have left for their break, and at the same time for their speech. And in order to make sure like the coordinator will not just sit there and will not listen to anything and only caring about pointing or addressing how many times the debater or the judge know about the time they have left. They also have to involve some work to be fair with the task that the other students have tried to conduct the research. So their goal is to give a reflection. After the end of the debate, you will have to write a short reflection between 200 to 400 words about what you have learned from this debate. And one thing to be noted is that everyone will have to open their webcam. The reason is that when you open your webcam, it helps easier to judge about the way that you deliver your speech, although we cannot be able to capture or take into consideration of your gestures or your facial expression. But everything that we can capture there is a very useful and helpful information for the judge also to score you inside this debate. But in case if you have any problem with your camera, then you can just close it. But I will highly suggest that if you don't have any problem, you can find any alternative besides just your computer camera. You can take your phone or you can do any other thing, unless there is no solution. So this is the role, and for the judge, these are the marking criteria. You're going to mark based on three aspects: is the matter, the manner, and the method. The matters will be most likely comprehend or relate to the content. The content of the debate, whether it's logically explained, whether it been analytically discussed by any group, or whether they provide a very good case study or be responsive toward any kind of information. But for the manner, it tends to be much more about the convincing skill, about whether you can persuade others. Although it seems like the information you raise are not making much sense, but it tends to provide a very good way to convince others. And the clarity of your speech, the clarity of your argument. And the last part is about the method, is relating most likely to the technical aspect of this debate, whether you uphold the time that everyone do, whether they fulfill the role, or you just do outside of the role that you've been providing. Because remember, for instance, like the third speaker, you are not allowed to provide any new arguments. You can only discuss or point out what they already been discussed here and try to prove that what is the weaknesses and what are the strengths among all of those arguments. So each one have to look at their role clearly and try to uphold them. So that's why this is the score that's given to them. And at the same time, we have the last one that I mentioned. Reply speech is the most important because it will give a very good score as well, because this is show that the group can turn the table at any time during the debate. So right now, let us start to look at the motion. So the motion of the debate is to state that the price gouging after the natural disaster should be prohibited. So one thing, if you're not clear about the meaning of the word price gouging is defined as a charging price by a seller that is higher than a normal or fair, usually in the times of natural disaster or crisis. So the meaning of price gouging simply means that you want to put a price higher than what you normally sell inside the market, because you want to get the advantage during the time there is a shortage of the supply during the period of the natural disaster or in the time of crisis. And your debate, for those who take the role of the proposition will try to prove or support that the price gouging is wrong. We should prohibit, we should not use the price gouging during the period of the disaster. But for the opposition, you will find the arguments to prove or to explain that the price gouging, it is okay to conduct during the period of crisis, and it might be benefit for the community with this price gouging itself. Of course, at first, I believe that you will find it strange why it is normal to let the seller to exploit the situation, and it's also alright for them to do like that. But once you start to finish learning and studying our course, our chapter about the demand and supply, you can use the concept that we learn in economics, and we can start to understand that sometimes the situation that we believe to be immoral, in doing so, the actions of immorality could also be useful or benefit for the society. And that is why we need to be able to understand that some problem in the world that we tend to believe it is the wrong thing for people to do, but it can also be the bless to that situation. This is what we need to learn and we want to understand. So to give everybody a very quick idea about what you should place your discussion upon. Normally, you should know that inside the debate, we need to find an area and a clash of area. So usually what the major area that I would suggest everyone could try to think of. You can look at the ground of morality. Look at the aspect of the benefit that it can provide for the poor during the period of the crisis, and the methods on how you apply to help them with the strategy during this shortage of the supply. So all of these are the concepts that whether believing, to sell the product during the period of the crisis with a very high price, it considered as a self-interest of the people, or whether it considered a bravery of the action of seller who willing to come there and sell the product despite the risk that they could get during the period of the natural disaster that is not yet stable, or the crisis that it could also face the problem. And at the same time, whether the strategy or what you suggested, that you say that by giving the high price during the period of crisis, whether it actually help the poor people to be able to get the product, or whether it actually hurt the poor from not being able to access to the product. We talk both about the price, and we talk also the availability of the product that could provide toward the society. You can come and look about which part that you believe is more beneficial for the poor. And the last point is about the method that you can think of. If we have a shortage of product, if you decided that you're not allowed to have a price gouging, so what are the other methods, or what kind of method that you can do in order to be fair, distributed, to be able to make a fairly distributed of the product to the other? Or if you decide to back up the price gouging, in what manner that you believe that the way you allocate the resources are somehow benefit for everyone, or it is fair to do so. And remember, the goal of what we do is not only to find the winner or the loser. This is not the actual debate. This is not the actual competition. We also talk about the idea of corporations. The core aspect of the debate is not just about finding a winner or loser. It's not just about trying to make your argument or be better than others. But the goal of the debate is to discuss about the problem, about learning from a different side, from a different angle, and try to understand what could be a potential threat, what could be a potential risk of trying to only listen to one side, and understand that what can be solved, what can we do to improve with the other. And this is the idea of the debate. It's coming together, discussing the problem, and finding the best solution out of it. And that's why in this activity, I'm not going to give you the score because you are the winner of the debate. I'm not going to give you the score because you are the one who speak well or perform well. But I will only give the score unless everyone are working hard together. If the whole group that you can see before, we have group A, group B, and group C. If any group who can perform well, both the judge, the debater, and the coordinator, then you will receive the score as a whole. So considering this activity is that the bonus will only be provided. The bonus will be provided for the one that tend to work hard together. If the whole group in the class, all A, B, and C, they all perform very well in each group. And that is why I also give another extra bonus for everyone. So the task of you is to help each other, to let them know what they have to speak, and to help them to understand. Okay, so how can I know that everybody are working or they debate during that time? So the idea that I can know is just by simply let everyone to record their video. So once you start the meeting in each group inside the channel that I will rename during that day for group A, group B, and group C. So once you join in that channel, when you start the meeting, there is a place you can see a 3 dot here. And when you click on it, you scroll down, you can see the place that allows you to start the recording. So every group will require to start the recording, and don't forget about that, especially if you have the coordinator, how to remind others that you have to record the video once the debate starts. After you start recording the video, you can start proceed the whole activity until the end, and then you just click the word stop. And once you start to stop recording, the recorded video will be saved and will be there. And after that, I can just download your video and I can rewatch again about what each group have been doing, and I will give my judgment and my score based on all of what everyone involved inside the debate. So good luck everyone, and I hope to see a very productive and a very active debate that you can come and involve. So thank you so much and see you.